Welcome, part 3 of After Betraying His Luna All Night. The Alpha King came, home to a rejection he never expected. Years after the heartbreaking rejection, Serafina raises their son Kalen alone in Silvermere, a strong, independent Luna who smiles again through her child's love. Kalen grows up with his father's storm-gray eyes and quiet strength, unaware of the king until playground cruelty forces Serafina to reveal the truth. The boy vows to confront Lysander himself. At a grand assembly, Kalen steps forward declaring, "I am your son." The fallen Alpha King drops to his knees, weeping and begging forgiveness. An ancient evil stirs, threatening the fragile reunion, but hope begins to bloom in a family torn apart by betrayal. Can a man who lost everything truly earn back the love he shattered? Will Serafina ever let him close again, or has she become too powerful to need him? And when the final darkness comes for their son, will their fragile new family survive? Tell me right now in the comments. After everything he did, does Lysander deserve a second chance? Let's watch it out in part 3.
Before we continue, please kindly tell us where you are watching from, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button, because every day we have amazing stories that will make your day.
Chapter 1. First Steps in the Light. The great assembly had ended hours ago, but the echoes of howls and cheers still lingered in the night air like smoke after a fire. Lysander stood outside the royal chambers, one hand on the heavy oak door, the other clenched at his side. Inside slept Kalen, their son, tucked between silk sheets that had once belonged to a king who never thought he would have an heir. Serafina had not yet emerged. He waited, heart hammering against ribs that felt too small to contain it. Every breath was a question. Would she let him stay? Would she let him near the boy again? Would she ever look at him without the shadow of old pain? The door opened quietly. Serafina stepped out, still in her deep green gown, hair loose now, silver threads glinting in the torchlight. She looked tired, beautifully, achingly tired, but her eyes were steady. "He's asleep," she said softly. "He asked for you twice before he drifted off. Said he wanted to make sure you didn't disappear again." Lysander swallowed, throat tight. "I won't." She studied him for a long moment, searching for the man she had once trusted completely. "Come in," she said finally, "but only for a minute. He needs rest." He followed her inside. The room was warm, lit by low firelight. Kalen lay curled on his side, dark hair fanned across the pillow, small fist clutching the blanket. Lysander's knees nearly gave out again. Serafina moved to the bedside, adjusting the covers with a tenderness that made his chest ache. She glanced back at him. "You can sit," she offered, voice quiet. "Just don't wake him." Lysander lowered himself into the chair beside the bed, movements careful, reverent. He watched Kalen breathe, slow, steady, alive. His son. For minutes neither spoke. Then Serafina broke the silence, still facing the bed. "I don't know what tomorrow looks like," she said. "I don't know if I can ever forget the nights I waited alone while you chose someone else. But I see him looking at you the way I once did, and I can't take that away from him." Lysander's voice came out rough, barely above a whisper. "I will never ask you to forget. I only ask you to let me prove I'm different now, one day at a time." She turned to face him fully. Moonlight from the window caught the unshed tears in her eyes. "Tomorrow we leave for Silvermere," she said. "The pack needs me. Kalen needs stability. You can come. But you stay in the guest wing. You earn every moment you get with him. And with me. That's not decided yet." Lysander nodded once, gratitude and fear warring inside him. "Thank you." She looked at their sleeping son, then back at him. "He asked me tonight if you would teach him how to roar like a king." A broken laugh escaped Lysander, his first real one in years. "I'll teach him anything he wants, as long as he'll let me." Serafina's lips curved, just a fraction. The first hint of a real smile aimed at him since the rejection. "Start small," she said. "Start with breakfast tomorrow. He likes honey on his bread." She moved to the door, pausing with her hand on the frame. "Good night, Lysander." "Good night, Serafina." She left, door closing softly behind her. Lysander stayed until the fire burned to embers, watching his son sleep, memorizing every breath. Tomorrow he would begin, and the darkness waiting in the shadows would have to wait its turn. Because for the first time in years, hope felt stronger than fear. Chapter 2. Shadows on the Journey. The first rays of dawn had barely touched the horizon when the Silvermere caravan assembled in the courtyard. Serafina stood at the head, checking saddle straps and speaking quietly with Torin, the pack alpha. Kaelin bounced beside her pony, eyes bright with the excitement of the road. Lysander waited a respectful distance away, holding the reins of his own black stallion, the moon pendant still hidden beneath his tunic. He had not slept. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Kaelin's small arms around his neck, heard the boy's whispered, "You're here now," and felt the fragile warmth of Seraphina's hand in his. It terrified him more than any battle ever had, because this could still be taken away. Seraphina glanced his way once. Their eyes met. She gave the slightest nod, permission to join. He mounted and took position at the rear, close enough to watch, far enough to give space. The caravan moved out at first light, 20 wolves strong, pack banners snapping in the wind. Kaelin rode between his mother and a young guard, chattering nonstop about everything he saw. Birds, distant peaks, the way the snow had melted into rushing streams. Lysander listened to every word, memorizing the cadence of his son's voice. They rode in silence for hours. The tension between them was a living thing, thick, unspoken, heavy with years of hurt. At midday, they stopped by a rushing river to rest the horses and eat. Kaelin ran to the water's edge, skipping stones. Seraphina watched him, arms crossed, wind tugging at her cloak. Lysander approached slowly, stopping a few paces away. "May I?" he asked, voice still rough from disuse but stronger now. She nodded once. He sat on a flat rock beside her, leaving space between them. They watched Kaelin together. "He's fearless," Lysander said quietly. "Like you." Seraphina's lips twitched. "Like you when you were young. He never backs down from a challenge." A beat of silence. Then Kaelin called out, "Mama, father, come skip stones with me." The word father landed like a thunderclap. Lysander froze. Seraphina's breath caught. Kaelin ran up, grabbing both their hands and tugging. "Come on, I'll show you how. Mama taught me the spin trick." They let him pull them to the riverbank. Kaelin demonstrated, tongue between his teeth, flicking a flat stone that skipped 4 times before sinking. He beamed up at Lysander. "Your turn, father." Lysander knelt, picked up a stone and, after a lifetime of silence, spoke the first words he had ever said to his son. "Like this." He flicked. The stone skipped 6 times. Kaelin's eyes widened. "Teach me." For the next hour, father and son crouched by the water, skipping stones, laughing when one bounced wildly. Seraphina watched from a few paces away, arms wrapped around herself, expression unreadable. When the caravan called to move on, Kaelin ran ahead to his pony. Lysander turned to Seraphina. "Thank you," he said simply, "for letting me have that." She looked at him, really looked, for the first time without anger as the primary emotion. "He needs you," she said. "That's the only reason you're here." "I know." She started to walk away, then paused. "But he also needs to see what a man who keeps his word looks like. Don't make me regret this, Lysander." "I won't." That night they camped in a sheltered valley. Kaelin fell asleep quickly, exhausted from the day. Seraphina sat by the fire, staring into the flames. Lysander approached again, slower this time. "May I sit?" She gestured to the log opposite her. They sat in silence for a long while, the crackle of the fire the only sound. Finally she spoke. "He asked me tonight if you would stay forever." Lysander's throat worked. "What did you tell him?" "I told him forever is a promise people have to earn, and you're only just beginning." He nodded. "I will earn it every single day." She looked at him across the fire. The flames danced in her eyes, green and gold and guarded. "I used to dream of this," she said quietly. "Of us, of a family. Of you looking at our child the way you looked at him today." "I dreamed of it too," he admitted, voice raw. "Even after I ruined it, especially after." Another long silence. Then she spoke again, softer. "I don't know if I can ever look at you and not remember the nights I waited alone. But I also remember the nights before that. The nights when you looked at me like I was the only thing that mattered." Lysander's hands clenched on his knees. "I never stopped looking at you that way. I just forgot how to show it." She studied him. "Show it now. Not with words, with time, with consistency. With every choice you make from this moment forward." "I will." She stood then, brushing ash from her cloak. "Good night, Lysander." "Good night, Seraphina." She walked to her tent, pausing at the flap. "Tomorrow," she said without turning, "ride closer. He'll want to talk to you more." Then she disappeared inside. Lysander stayed by the fire until it burned to coals. He looked north, toward Silvermere, toward home, toward the life he might still deserve. and in the darkness beyond the camp, the first shadow wolf watched. It waited, patient, hungry. The journey had begun, and the real test was only starting. Chapter 3: Homecoming and Walls. The Silvermere Keep rose from the valley like an ancient sentinel, stone walls softened by centuries of ivy and snowmelt. The caravan crested the final ridge at dusk, torches already lit along the battlements, welcoming fires blazing in the courtyard below. Kalen leaned forward on his pony, eyes wide. "It looks bigger than last time." Seraphina smiled down at him. "It's home, little one, and it's waiting for you." Lysander rode at the rear, silent, every sense attuned to the shift in the air. He felt the eyes on him, pack members lining the walls, warriors at the gates, healers peering from windows. Some faces he recognized from years ago, others were new. All carried the same guarded question: has the king truly changed? The gates swung open. Torin, the Silvermere Alpha, stepped forward to greet them. He clasped Seraphina's forearm in the old way, respect, not submission, then turned to Lysander. The two Alphas regarded each other for a long moment. "You are welcome here," Torin said finally, voice low and measured, "for the boy's sake and hers. But know this, one misstep, and you answer to the whole pack." Lysander met his gaze steadily. "I understand." Torin nodded once, acceptance not trust, and stepped aside. The courtyard filled with movement, wolves embracing returning kin, children running to greet parents, stable hands taking reins. Kalen slid from his pony and ran straight into the arms of an elderly she-wolf who had helped raise Seraphina. Lysander dismounted slowly, handing his horse off without looking away from the scene. Seraphina approached him, Kalen now clinging to her hand. "You'll stay in the East Wing," she said. "Separate quarters, meals together when Kalen wants it. Training yard is open to you. The rest? We'll see." He nodded. "Thank you." She hesitated, then added softly, "He asked if you could tuck him in tonight." Lysander's throat closed. "I'd be honored." That night, after the welcoming feast, where Lysander sat quietly at the end of the table, letting Kalen chatter and Seraphina watch him with careful eyes, the three of them walked to the boys' chamber. Kalen climbed into the wide bed, furs piled high. He looked expectantly at his father. "Story?" he asked. Lysander sat on the edge of the bed. Seraphina stood near the door, arms crossed, expression unreadable. Lysander cleared his throat, still unused to the sound of his own voice after so long. "Once," he began, "there was a king who thought power was everything. He had a voice like thunder, a kingdom that bowed, but he forgot the most important thing." Kalen leaned forward. "What?" "The people who loved him," Lysander said quietly. "Especially the one who loved him most. She was brave and kind, and she gave him the greatest gift of all, a son. But the king was foolish. He hurt her, badly. And she left to protect the gift." Kalen's eyes widened. "Did he find them again?" Lysander looked at Seraphina across the room. Her gaze was steady, glistening. "He did," he whispered, "and he spent every day after trying to prove he was worthy of being near them again. He learned. He waited. He never stopped loving them, even when he didn't know how to show it." Kalen yawned, snuggling deeper into the furs. "Did they forgive him?" Lysander's voice cracked. "Some days they did. Some days they didn't. But the king never stopped trying." Kalen reached out, small hand finding Lysander's. "I think he's trying really hard." Lysander pressed a kiss to the boy's forehead, soft, reverent. "I hope so." Seraphina stepped forward then, brushing Kalen's hair back. "Sleep, my love." Kalen's eyes fluttered shut. "Good night, Mama." "Good night, Father." The word hung in the air like a promise. Seraphina kissed his cheek, then turned to leave. Lysander followed her into the corridor. She closed the door softly behind them. They stood in the torchlit hall, inches apart. "Thank you," he said again, "for letting me tell him that." She looked up at him, really looked. The firelight caught the faint scar on her cheek from a long-ago battle, the green of her eyes deeper in shadow. "I didn't do it for you," she said. "I did it for him. He deserves to know the truth, all of it, even the painful parts." Lysander nodded. "I'll carry the pain. He shouldn't have to." She studied him a moment longer. "You're different." "I'm trying to be." Another beat. Then she spoke, voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know if I can ever look at you and not see the nights I cried alone. But tonight, I saw something else. I saw a man who stayed, who listened, who let his son call him father without flinching." Lysander's breath hitched. She took one small step closer, enough that he could smell jasmine on her skin, the same scent that had once been his undoing. "Don't ruin this," she said. "Not for him, not for me." "I won't." She searched his face, then turned to walk away. At the end of the corridor, she paused, glancing back. "Breakfast at dawn," she said. "He likes honey on his bread, and he likes stories. Don't be late." Then she was gone. Lysander stood alone in the hall, heart pounding. In the distance, beyond the keep walls, a low growl rumbled through the earth. Too deep to be wolf, too wrong to be natural. The darkness had followed them home, and it was watching. Chapter 4, Lessons in Trust. The training yard of Silvermere Keep woke early. Mist clung to the ground like a reluctant ghost as Lysander stepped onto the packed earth, sword belt buckled, sleeves rolled to the elbow. Dawn light caught the faint scars on his forearms, marks from the trials he had endured alone. Kalen waited already, wooden practice sword in hand, bouncing on his toes. Seraphina stood at the yard's edge, arms crossed, cloak wrapped tight against the morning chill. She had not said she would come, yet here she was. Lysander approached slowly. "Ready?" he asked Kalen. The boy nodded, eyes bright. "Teach me the spin thing like you did with the stones." Lysander smiled, small, careful. "First we learn stance, feet apart, knees soft, sword up." Kalen mimicked him, tongue between his teeth in concentration. Lysander adjusted the boy's grip gently, fingers brushing small hands. "Good. Now, slow. Feel the weight." They moved through basic forms. Step, parry, strike. Lysander patient, voice low and steady. Kalen followed with fierce focus, correcting himself before Lysander could speak. Seraphina watched from the fence line. Every time Lysander laughed, quiet, genuine, at one of Kalen's wild swings, something in her chest loosened a fraction. Every time he knelt to the boy's level, explaining without impatience, she remembered the man she had fallen for before power twisted him. But memory was a double-edged blade. She remembered the nights she waited alone, too. After an hour, sweat gleamed on Kalen's brow. Lysander ruffled his hair. "You're a natural, stronger than I was at your age." Kalen beamed. "Really?" "Really." The boy ran to the water barrel for a drink. Lysander straightened, wiping his forehead with his sleeve, and looked toward Seraphina. She walked over slowly. "He's good," she said. "Quick. He gets that from you." She didn't argue. They stood side by side, watching Kalen splash water on his face. "He asked me last night why we don't live together," she said quietly. Lysander's breath caught. "What did you tell him?" "The truth, that families sometimes break, and sometimes they try to mend, and it takes time." He nodded slowly. "I want to mend it, all of it." She turned to face him fully. "Then tell me something honest. No pretty words, no promises you might not keep." He met her gaze, open, unguarded. "I still wake up reaching for you," he said, voice rough. "Every morning. I dream of the nights we were whole. I dream of the way you used to laugh when I said something stupid. I dream of holding you when the world felt too heavy. And then I wake up alone and it's my own fault. I know that. I live with that every second." Her throat worked. And I don't want to be the man who did that anymore. I want to be the one who stays, who listens, who earns the right to hear you laugh again, even if it's only once." She looked away toward Kalen, now chasing a butterfly across the yard. "I don't know if I can give you that laugh," she said finally. "Not yet. Maybe not ever. I know. But—" She exhaled slowly. "I can give you time. I can give you space beside us. And I can watch. And if you keep showing up like this, patient, present, honest, I can try to remember the good parts without the pain swallowing them whole." Lysander bowed his head. "That's more than I deserve." She studied him a moment longer. "It's what he deserves." Kalen ran back then, breathless. "Mama, father, watch this!" He demonstrated a clumsy but enthusiastic spin parry, nearly toppling over. Lysander caught him, laughing. Seraphina's lips curved, almost a smile. Later, as the morning warmed and the yard emptied, Kalen tugged Lysander toward the fence. "Show Mama the spin thing!" Lysander glanced at Seraphina. She raised a brow. Challenge accepted. He stepped into the center of the yard, drew his real sword and moved. Slow at first. Graceful arcs. Controlled power. Then faster. The blade sang through the air, a blur of steel and sunlight. He spun, parried an invisible foe, struck with precision. When he finished, chest heaving, he looked at her. She didn't speak, but she clapped, slow, deliberate. Kalen cheered. Lysander sheathed his sword, walked to the fence, and stopped a respectful distance away. "Thank you," he said, "for watching." She looked at him, really looked, and for the first time in years the anger in her eyes had softened into something quieter. Something like possibility. That night after Kaelin slept, Seraphina found Lysander in the corridor outside the boys' room. She stopped a few paces away. "He asked if you'd teach him to track tomorrow," she said. Lysander nodded. "I will." Another silence. Then she spoke, voice low. "I'm not ready to forgive everything, not yet. I know. But I'm ready to try believing you might deserve it one day." She turned to leave. "Seraphina." She paused. He took one careful step closer. "I love you, I never stopped. And I will wait as long as it takes for you to believe that again." She looked back over her shoulder. A single tear traced her cheek. Then she walked away. But this time she didn't tell him to stay away. Outside the keep the shadows thickened. A low growl echoed from the forest, closer now. The darkness had found them. And it was done waiting. Chapter 5. The First Crack. The training yard had emptied, leaving only the echo of steel on wood and the soft crunch of boots on gravel. Kaelin had run ahead to the kitchens, lured by the promise of honey bread and the chance to tell the cook about his new spin parry. Lysander and Seraphina remained behind, the morning sun now climbing higher, burning away the last of the mist. Neither moved to leave. Lysander sheathed his practice sword, the quiet click of metal into leather loud in the stillness. Seraphina spoke first, voice low. "He's never looked at anyone the way he looks at you now." Lysander turned to her slowly. "He looks at you like you hung the moon." She gave a small, sad smile. "He used to look at you that way too. Before he even knew who you were." The words landed like a stone in still water. Lysander exhaled, shoulders dropping. "I know." She walked to the fence, resting her forearms on the top rail, staring out at the valley. He followed, stopping a careful distance away. Silence stretched, comfortable, uncomfortable, both at once. Then she asked very quietly, "Do you ever think about the nights I waited?" Lysander's breath hitched. "Every day," he said, "every single day." She didn't look at him. "I would lie in our bed, your bed, and smell the jasmine oil on the sheets you'd worn the night before. I'd tell myself you were on patrol, or in council, or helping a village. I told myself lies so I wouldn't have to face the truth." He closed his eyes. "I'm sorry. You said that yesterday, the day before. You'll say it tomorrow." Her voice cracked. "Sorry doesn't erase the nights I cried until dawn. Sorry doesn't give me back the months I spent wondering if I was enough. Sorry doesn't give Kaelin back the years he grew up without a father." Each word was a blade, precise, deserved. Lysander opened his eyes, tears already gathering. "No, it doesn't." She finally turned to him. Tears streaked her cheeks, but her gaze was steady. "Then tell me why I should believe you won't do it again." He stepped closer, slow, giving her room to retreat. "Because I know what it feels like to lose you," he said, voice raw. "I know what it feels like to wake up reaching for someone who isn't there. I know what it feels like to look at my own son and see the man I could have been staring back at me. I know what it feels like to be the reason he ever had to ask why his father wasn't there." He took another step. "Because I spent years rebuilding myself from the ashes of the man who hurt you. I faced every lie I told myself. Every excuse, every moment I chose pride over love. I faced them until I couldn't breathe from the shame. And I still face them. Every morning, every night." Seraphina's breath trembled. He stopped just out of reach. "I don't want forgiveness because I deserve it," he whispered. "I want a chance to prove I'm not that man anymore. Not for me. For him. For you. For the family we could still be, if you ever decide you want that." She looked at him, really looked, and the anger that had been her shield for so long cracked. A single sob escaped her. Lysander moved without thinking, arms opening, offering, not demanding. She stepped into them. Just once. Just for a heartbeat. Her forehead pressed to his chest, hands fisting in his tunic, tears soaking the fabric. He wrapped his arms around her, gentle, reverent, trembling, and buried his face in her hair. They stood like that, silent, shaking, while the world moved on around them. Then she pulled back, wiping her eyes with the heel of her hand. "That doesn't mean anything," she said, voice thick. "It doesn't mean I forgive you, it just means I'm tired of being angry all the time." He nodded, tears on his own cheeks now. "I'll take tired," She gave a watery laugh, small, broken, but real. Then she straightened, smoothing her cloak. "He's waiting for us, come on." They walked back toward the keep side by side, not touching, but closer than they had been in years. Kalen burst from the kitchens, honey on his chin, waving a piece of bread. "Mama, Father, look, I got extra." Serafina smiled, wide, genuine. "You're going to be sticky all day." Lysander laughed, soft, relieved. "Worth it." They sat together on the stone steps, Kalen between them sharing bread and stories. Sunlight warmed their shoulders. For the first time in too long, the three of them felt like a family. But in the forest beyond the walls, the shadows gathered thicker. A low, guttural growl rolled through the trees. Closer now. The ancient evil had found the heart it had waited centuries to break, and it was coming for the boy. Chapter 6, United Front. The keep had fallen quiet after the midday meal, sunlight slanting through high windows in long golden bars across the stone floors. Kalen had been whisked away by Ira for lessons, reading, tracking, the small magics of the valley that Serafina herself had learned as a girl. He had gone willingly, waving over his shoulder with a promise to show Father the new spell later. Now the solar was empty except for the two of them. Serafina stood at the tall map table, fingers tracing the northern border lines where the shadow sightings had begun. Lysander stood opposite her, palms flat on the wood, studying the same marks. The silence between them was different now, not cold, not hostile, but careful, like two people learning to walk on newly thawed ground. Serafina spoke first. "The scouts say the shadows are moving in patterns," she said. "Not random, they circle, they watch, they wait." Lysander nodded. "They're waiting for weakness, for division." She glanced up. "Then we don't give them one." He met her eyes, steady, searching. "We work together," she continued. "You know the old curse better than anyone. You faced its trials. You know what it hungers for." "The bloodline," he said quietly. "It wants the line broken again, completely. It wants Kalen to grow up hating me. Or worse, never knowing me." Serafina's jaw tightened. "It won't have him." Lysander straightened. "Then we protect him. Together. No more distance, no more walls. We plan, we train, we stand as one." She studied him. "You're asking for trust. I'm asking for a chance to earn it every day, every decision, starting now." She exhaled slowly. "All right." They bent over the map together. Their shoulders nearly brushed as they worked, pointing out patrol routes, marking weak points, discussing the wards and how to strengthen them. Their voices overlapped in quiet rhythm, hers calm and precise, his rough but thoughtful. Every so often their fingers brushed on the parchment. Once, twice, deliberate enough to notice, accidental enough to pretend it wasn't. The air thickened with unspoken things. When the map was covered in new lines and notes, Serafina stepped back. "We'll need more scouts," she said. "And we'll need to train Kalen, not just to defend himself, to understand what he's facing." Lysander nodded. "I'll teach him everything, no secrets." She looked at him, really looked. "You've changed," she said softly. "I see it. In the way you speak to him. In the way you wait for me to decide. In the way you don't push. I'm trying to be the man you once believed I could be." Her throat worked. "I'm starting to believe you might." She turned toward the window, arms wrapping around herself. "I still remember the pain. It's not gone. It may never be completely gone, but I also remember the man who once looked at me like I was his entire world. And I see glimpses of him again." Lysander moved closer, slow, giving her every chance to stop him. He stopped just behind her, close enough that she could feel the warmth of him. "I never stopped looking at you that way," he said, voice low. "Even when I was too blind to show it. Even when I was breaking us both." She closed her eyes. He lifted a hand, hesitant, and brushed a stray lock of hair behind her ear. She didn't pull away. The touch lingered. His fingers grazed her cheek, light, reverent. She turned slowly, facing him. They stood inches apart, breathing the same air. Her eyes searched his, pain, hope, fear, longing, all of it. "I don't know if I can ever kiss you again," she whispered. "I know, but—" She swallowed. "I think I want to try, one day, when it doesn't hurt so much to remember." Lysander's breath shuddered out of him. He nodded, once slow, grateful. "Then I'll wait," he said, "as long as it takes." She gave him the smallest smile, fragile, beautiful. "Start with tonight," she said. "Kalen wants us both to tuck him in, together." Lysander's eyes shone. Together. They left the solar side by side, closer than before, but still careful. In the corridor, their hands brushed. Neither pulled away. Outside the keep walls, the shadows deepened. A low, guttural growl rolled through the trees, closer than ever. The ancient evil had tasted hope, and it hated the taste. Chapter 7, Battle in the Dark. The night the shadow struck was moonless. Silvermere Keep lay wrapped in unnatural quiet. No wind, no owl calls, only the low, constant hum of something wrong beneath the earth. Lysander had not slept. He stood on the eastern tower, sword at his hip, eyes scanning the tree line where the darkness had thickened over days. Seraphina had come up to join him an hour ago, silent at first, then speaking in low tones about patrol rotations, ward placements, Kalen's safety. Now they stood side by side, shoulders almost touching, watching the forest breathe. A sudden crack split the silence like wood tearing. Then the shadows moved, not as mist, not as illusion. As living things, blacker than night, taller than wolves, eyes like burning coals. They poured from the trees in a wave, silent, swift, aimed straight for the keep. Lysander's voice ripped through the night, hoarse, powerful, fully returned. "To arms!" The alarm bells rang. Seraphina drew her blade, silver flashing in torchlight. "Kalen!" "Safe," Lysander said. "Era has him in the inner chamber, warded." She nodded once, trust, fragile but real. They ran together down the tower stairs, meeting the first wave in the courtyard. The shadow wolves were fast, claws of smoke and ice, jaws that bit deeper than flesh. Lysander fought like a storm, blade singing, body a shield between the creatures and the keep. Seraphina moved beside him, graceful, lethal, every strike precise. They fought back to back at one point, breath sinking, movements mirroring without thought. A shadow lunged for Seraphina's flank. Lysander spun, taking the blow meant for her, claws raking across his ribs, tearing leather and skin. He staggered but did not fall. Seraphina's cry was sharp. "Lysander!" She drove her blade through the creature's chest, shadow exploding into smoke. He straightened, blood darkening his tunic. "I'm fine." She grabbed his arm, eyes wide. "You're not." The battle raged on. Wolves of Silvermere joining, torches flaring, howls meeting growls. When the last shadow dissolved, dawn was breaking. The courtyard was scarred. Stone cracked, torches guttered, warriors bleeding. Lysander leaned against a pillar, hand pressed to his side. Seraphina was at his side in an instant, dropping her sword, tearing cloth from her cloak. "Sit," she ordered. He obeyed, slowly, pain etching his face. She knelt, peeling back torn fabric. The wound was deep, 3 long gashes, black-veined, unnatural. Her hands shook as she cleaned it. "You took that hit for me," she said, voice thick. "I would take 1,000 more." Tears welled in her eyes. She pressed the cloth to the wound, hands gentle despite the tremor. "You're bleeding too much," she whispered. He caught her wrist lightly. "I've had worse." She looked up at him, really looked, and something inside her cracked wide open. She leaned forward, forehead pressing to his, breath mingling. "I can't lose you again," she said, voice breaking. "Not now. Not when we're just starting to find our way back." Lysander's free hand came up, cupping her cheek, thumb brushing away a tear. "You won't," he rasped. "I'm here, I'm staying." She closed her eyes, tears falling onto his skin. They stayed like that, foreheads touching, breathing each other's air, while the keep slowly quieted around them. Warriors watched from a distance, silent, respectful. Kalen's small voice broke through. "Mama, father?" He stood at the courtyard entrance, Era behind him, eyes wide. Seraphina pulled back, wiping her face quickly. "We're here, love, it's over." Kalen ran to them, throwing himself into Lysander's arms, careful of the wound. "You're hurt," he said, voice small. Lysander hugged him close. "Just a scratch. Your mother's fixing it." Seraphina smiled through tears, ruffling Kalen's hair. The boy looked between them, seeing the closeness, the shared pain, the unspoken promise. "Are you staying together now?" he asked. Seraphina met Lysander's eyes over Kalen's head. She took a slow breath. "Yes," she said softly. "We're trying, for you and for us." Kalen's face lit up, brighter than the rising sun. Lysander pressed a kiss to his son's forehead. Then he looked at Seraphina. Hope, love, gratitude, all of it laid bare. She reached out, fingers threading through his. The ancient evil had struck, and for the first time they had faced it together. But the darkness wasn't finished. It had only retreated, and it knew exactly where to strike next. Chapter 8, The Choice. The courtyard was still smoking when the first rays of sun touched the bloodied stones. Warriors moved quietly, carrying the wounded, clearing debris, whispering of the night's victory. The shadow wolves had retreated at dawn, leaving only scorched earth and the acrid scent of burnt darkness. Lysander sat on the low stone wall, tunic torn open, Serafina kneeling before him with a basin of water and clean strips of cloth. Her hands were steady as she cleaned the claw marks across his ribs. Deep, angry, black-veined. He winced once but didn't complain. She worked in silence, the only sound the soft drip of water and the distant calls of crows circling the forest. When the last wound was bandaged, she sat back on her heels looking at him, really looking. "You could have died," she said, voice low, almost accusing. "I would have," he answered simply, "before I let them reach you, or him." Her throat worked. She reached out, fingers brushing the bandage, then higher, tracing the old scar over his heart, the one he'd earned protecting her years ago before everything broke. "You always did that," she whispered. "Took the hit, stood between me and danger even when you were the danger." He caught her hand gently, holding it against his chest. "I was the worst danger of all," he said, "and I'll spend the rest of my life making sure I never am again." Tears welled in her eyes. She pulled her hand away, stood and walked a few paces, needing distance, needing air. Lysander remained seated, giving her space. The keep slowly came alive around them, breakfast fires kindling, children's voices calling, the everyday rhythm returning like breath after drowning. Kalen appeared at the courtyard entrance, hair tousled from sleep, eyes wide as he took in the aftermath. He ran straight to his father. "You're hurt," he said, small hand hovering over the bandage. "Just scratches," Lysander said, pulling the boy onto his lap despite the pain. "Your mother fixed me up." Kalen looked up at Serafina, then back at Lysander. "Did you save us again?" Lysander met Serafina's gaze over Kalen's head. "I helped," he said, "but your mother was right beside me. We saved each other." Kalen's face lit with pride. "Like a team. Like a family," Serafina said softly. She walked back to them, kneeling so she was eye level with Kalen. "The shadows will come again," she told him gently. "But we're stronger together. All three of us." Kalen nodded solemnly. "I'm not scared, not when you're both here." He hugged them both at once, small arms around their necks, pulling them close. Serafina's eyes met Lysander's over Kalen's head. Something in her expression shifted, softened, opened. She pulled back slightly, brushing Kalen's hair from his forehead. "Go find Era," she told him. "Tell her we need breakfast in the solar for 3. Kalen grinned and ran off, calling for the healer. Now it was just them again. Serafina stood. Lysander rose too, slow, careful, pain etched in every line. She looked at him long, searching. "I've been angry for so long," she said. "It was easier than hurting. Easier than remembering how much I loved you. How much I still—" She stopped. He waited, didn't push. She took a breath. "I forgive you." The words fell like rain after drought. Lysander's knees nearly buckled. "Not because you deserve it," she continued. "Not yet. But because I'm tired of carrying the weight of hate. Because Kalen deserves parents who can look at each other without pain in their eyes. Because I see you trying. Really trying. And I want to believe in second chances." Tears spilled down Lysander's face, silent, unstoppable. He reached for her hand. She let him take it. "I don't expect you to love me again," he whispered. "Not now. Maybe not ever. But I will spend every day proving I'm worth the risk." She stepped closer. Her free hand rose, hesitant, brushing tears from his cheek. "I think," she said, voice trembling, "I might already be falling again, just a little, just enough to scare me." He laughed, soft, broken, relieved. "Then I'll be careful," he said, "with your heart, with mine, with everything." She leaned forward, slow, giving him time to stop her. Their foreheads touched. Breath mingled. Neither moved for a kiss, not yet. But the space between them was smaller than it had been in years. A single tear fell from her eye onto his cheek. "I'm scared," she admitted. "I'm terrified," he answered, "but I'm here." She smiled, small, real, beautiful. "Stay close tonight," she whispered. "Just stay close." He nodded. They stood like that, foreheads pressed, hands clasped, while the sun climbed higher and the keep woke around them. The ancient evil had retreated for now, but it had seen the crack in their defenses. It had seen the love beginning to heal. And it hated it. The final strike was coming, and it would demand everything. Chapter 9, The Final Stand. The keep had never felt so quiet. After the courtyard battle, after the bandages, after the fragile forehead touch that felt like the first real breath in years, the night passed in uneasy truce. Serafina had not asked Lysander to leave her side. He had slept on the floor beside Kalen's bed, close enough to hear the boy's soft breathing, far enough to give Serafina space in the adjoining chamber. But sleep had not come easily for either of them. Dawn arrived cold and gray. Serafina found Lysander already in the solar, standing at the window overlooking the valley. The moon pendant hung openly on his chest now, catching the weak light. He turned when she entered. "You didn't sleep," she said. "Neither did you." She crossed the room slowly, stopped beside him, looked out at the same view. "The shadows are gathering again," she said. "I can feel it, like a storm before thunder." Lysander nodded. "It knows we're healing. It hates that. It wants the fracture. It wants Kalen to grow up without us together." Serafina's jaw tightened. It won't have him. He turned to face her fully. "Then we end this tonight." She met his gaze, steady, unafraid. "Together." Kalen appeared at the doorway then, rubbing sleep from his eyes. "Mama? Father? Is it time to fight the dark?" Serafina knelt, cupping his face. "Not you, little one. You stay safe. You're our heart. We fight so you never have to." Kalen looked between them. "But you'll come back? Both of you?" Lysander knelt too, voice rough but sure. "We'll come back together, I promise." Kalen hugged them both, fierce small arms pulling them close. Then he stepped back, chin lifted. "I'll be brave here like you taught me." Serafina kissed his forehead. "You already are." They left him with Era and the strongest guards. Wards reinforced, the inner chamber sealed. The rest of the day passed in preparation, sharpening blades, strengthening wards, gathering the pack's best warriors. At dusk, they stood together on the battlements. Serafina looked at Lysander. "If we don't come back, we will." She took his hand, deliberate, firm. "If we don't," she said, "know that I forgive you, completely, and that I love you. Still. Always." Lysander's breath shuddered. He brought her hand to his lips, kissing her knuckles. "I love you," he said, "more than I ever knew how to show, but I'm learning." She smiled, small, real, brave. Then the darkness came. It did not creep this time. It erupted. A black wave poured from the forest, towering, formless, eyes everywhere. The ground trembled. The wards flared, then cracked. The pack met it head-on. Lysander and Serafina fought at the center, back to back, blades flashing, moving as one. A massive shadow struck, claws aimed for Serafina's heart. Lysander threw himself in front, taking the blow full in the chest. He fell hard, blood blooming across his tunic. Serafina's scream tore the night. She dropped beside him, hands pressing the wound. "No, no, no, no!" He grabbed her wrist, eyes fierce. "Finish it for him, for us." Tears streamed down her face. She kissed him, hard, desperate, full of everything she hadn't said. Then she rose. Sword in hand, she faced the darkness. The pack rallied behind her. She fought like a storm. Every strike fueled by love, by loss, by the life she refused to let end. The shadow wolf that had struck Lysander lunged again. Serafina met it, blade sinking deep, twisting. It shrieked high, unearthly. The darkness faltered. She drove forward, relentless. One final strike. The shadow exploded, light bursting from its core, tearing through the night. Silence. The darkness dissolved. Dawn broke. Serafina dropped to her knees beside Lysander. He was still breathing, shallow, ragged. She pressed her hands to the wound, tears falling onto his skin. "Stay with me," she whispered. "You promised." His eyes fluttered open. He lifted a trembling hand to her cheek. "I'm here." She laughed, sobbing, relieved. The pack surrounded them, cheers, tears, howls of victory. Kalen burst through the crowd, running to them. "Father!" Lysander smiled weakly. "Hey, brave boy." Kalen hugged him, careful, fierce. Serafina held them both. The sun rose higher. The curse was broken. The darkness was gone. And in the courtyard of Silvermere Keep, a family that had been torn apart began, slowly, painfully, beautifully to heal. Chapter 10. A New Dawn. The courtyard lay still under the first true sunrise in weeks. Smoke from dying torches curled lazily upward. The stones were scarred, dark streaks where shadows had burned away. But the air felt lighter, cleaner, as though the ancient evil had taken its final breath and dissolved into nothing. Serafina knelt beside Lysander, hands still pressed to the bandaged wound across his chest. His breathing was shallow but steady. The black veins that had crept from the claw marks were fading, slowly, painfully, replaced by the warm flush of returning life. Kalen clung to his father's side, small fingers wrapped around Lysander's larger hand. "You promised," the boy whispered, voice thick. "You promised you'd come back." Lysander's eyes fluttered open. He looked at his son first, gray meeting gray, and managed a weak smile. "I'm here," he rasped. Kalen's face crumpled with relief. He threw himself across Lysander's chest, careful of the wound, and buried his face in his father's neck. Serafina's tears fell freely now, splashing onto the stone beside them. She leaned down, forehead pressing to Lysander's, hand cupping his cheek. "You kept your promise," she whispered. He lifted trembling fingers to brush her tears away. "Always and will." The pack gathered around them, silent, reverent. Torin stepped forward, dropping to one knee. "The darkness is gone," he said. "The curse is broken. The bloodline stands whole." A low, rolling howl began, first from Torin, then spreading through the warriors, the healers, the children, until the entire keep sang with it. A song of victory, of healing, of family. Serafina helped Lysander sit up slowly, Kalen tucked against his side. The three of them, bloodied, exhausted, alive, looked out over the valley as the sun climbed higher. Weeks passed. The keep healed. Lysander grew stronger, slowly, day by day. Serafina tended him herself, changing bandages, bringing meals, sitting with him through the long nights when pain kept him awake. They talked. Not about the past, not yet, but about small things. Kalen's latest lesson, the way the valley bloomed after rain, the stars they used to watch together. One evening, when Lysander could finally walk without help, Serafina led him to the garden overlook, the same place she had stood alone so many nights, staring south. Kalen had fallen asleep early. It was just them. Moonlight bathed the valley in silver. Serafina stopped at the stone railing. Lysander stood beside her, close enough to feel her warmth, far enough to give her space. She spoke first. "I forgave you," she said quietly. "Completely. The day you took that blow from me, the day you came back to us." He exhaled, shaky, relieved. "I never thought I'd hear those words." She turned to face him. "I love you," she said, "still, always. Even when I hated you. Even when I couldn't admit it. I never stopped." Lysander's breath caught. He reached for her, slow, careful. She stepped into his arms. They held each other tight, trembling like people who had crossed a desert and finally found water. Then she lifted her face. He searched her eyes, asking, not assuming. She answered by rising on her toes. Their lips met, soft at first, tentative, remembering. Then deeper, slower, a kiss that carried years of pain, years of longing, years of love that had never truly died. When they parted, foreheads pressed together, both were crying. "I want us to start over," she whispered. "Not as we were. Better, honest, whole." He nodded, voice thick. "Yes." A soft sound from the doorway. Kalen stood there, sleepy-eyed, rubbing his face. "You're kissing," he said, grinning. Serafina laughed, wet, joyful. "Yes, love, we are." Kalen ran to them, throwing his arms around both their waists. "Does this mean we're a real family now?" Lysander knelt, pulling them both close. "Yes," he said, voice strong and sure. "We're a real family forever." The three of them stood under the moon. Mother, father, son. Wounds scarred, hearts healing, future wide open. And somewhere far beyond the valley, the last whisper of darkness faded into nothing. The curse was gone. The family was whole. A new dawn had come. Wow, did you feel that? The tears. The roar. The quiet kiss under the moonlight. The moment a broken king, a fierce Luna, and their brave son finally became a family again. Heartbreak turned to hope. Pain turned to healing. And the darkness? It never stood a chance against love that refused to die. But what happens next, now that they've won the battle? Will they truly win the war inside their hearts? And what new adventures await Kalen, the boy who brought them back together? If this story wrecked you, healed you, and left you smiling through tears, don't stop here. Hit that subscribe button now so you never missed. Drop a comment and tell me, Team Serafina, she carried them all, or Team Lysander, redemption hits different? What broke you most, the reunion, the battle, or that final kiss? Do you want more family moments, more battles, or a whole new threat? Like if this ending made your heart feel full again. Share this series with your best friend who lives for epic werewolf feels because they need this. Save it so you can rewatch the moment they became whole whenever you need hope. Your comments literally shape what comes next. Tell me what you're craving. More slow burn romance? Kalen growing up? A spin-off? I'm reading every word. The pack is stronger together, and we're just getting started. Who's ready for whatever comes next? Let me hear you roar in the comments. See you soon, don't miss it.